Snow drove down from the mountains like a curtain of ash, thick and relentless, the kind that buried tracks faster than a man could make them. Elias Boone leaned into the wind, his beard stiff with frost, his coat heavy with the weight of snow and months of travel. Each breath tore at his lungs like glass. The forest had long since turned to a blur of white and black, pines bowed under ice, their branches creaking in protest, shadows stretching thin in the dying light. He knew he wouldn't last another night out in it. The storm had risen quick from the northwest, one of those blizzards that came without warning, swallowing the trail and turning sky and ground into the same empty color. He'd been cutting timber along the ridge above Bear Creek since summer, living off jerky and whiskey, keeping mostly to himself. The town of Miller's Crossing lay half a day's ride behind him, though his horse had bolted 2 hours earlier when a fallen branch cracked nearby. He hadn't had the strength to chase it. Now he carried only an axe, a bedroll, and the stubborn will that had gotten him through every lonely winter since he'd left the mines. His eyes stung from the snow. He muttered to himself just to hear a voice. Just a bit further, Boone. Gotta be somewhere out of this damn wind. He stumbled over a root, caught himself on a pine trunk, and saw it then, a break in the ridge where the slope turned dark and jagged. It was the kind of darkness that didn't belong in a storm. He blinked snow from his lashes. A cave mouth, half hidden by brush and drift. He'd passed this way in summer and never noticed it, or maybe he had but dismissed it. Now it looked like salvation. He pushed toward it, boots sinking to the knee. The wind died suddenly as he stepped into the shadow. The hush was thick, almost holy. Snow hissed off his coat. The cave smelled faintly of damp earth and something else, wood smoke. He stopped cold. Wood smoke meant fire, and fire meant someone was already here. For a long moment he stood listening. The wind howled outside, but within, there was a low crackle, steady and alive. He eased his axe down, wiped a hand across his beard, and called out softly. "Hello? Any soul in here?" No answer came. The flicker of orange deeper inside confirmed what he'd smelled. Someone had built a fire past the first bend of rock. He thought of turning back, but the storm behind him was murder. Whoever it was, they could share a bit of warmth, or at least tolerate him till morning. He took a cautious step forward. The cave opened wider than he expected. The walls gleamed with moisture, narrow veins of quartz catching the firelight ahead. He could hear the soft hiss of boiling water, the shuffle of movement. He cleared his throat again. "I mean no trouble. Just lookin' for a dry place to wait the storm." The movement stopped. Then a voice came, a woman's, low but clear, shaped by the kind of loneliness that made words slow and careful. "You shouldn't be here." He froze. "Didn't mean to intrude, ma'am. I didn't know anyone made camp this far out." "Most don't," she said. Her silhouette shifted near the fire. "But this place is mine." Elias hesitated, then stepped closer so the firelight reached him. She stood beside a small pit fire ringed with stones, a kettle hanging from a hook fashioned from a bent rifle barrel. She wasn't young, though not old either, maybe mid-30s, her hair tied back in a rough braid, eyes catching the light like dark glass. A revolver rested at her hip, worn but well kept. "I'll take just a bit of space near the entrance," he said. "Ain't lookin' for charity. Storm'll last the night," she said flatly. "Maybe longer. Then I'm all the more grateful if you'll let me sit by that fire till it quits." She studied him. A long time, her hand resting lightly near the pistol. Finally she nodded once. "Keep to that side. Don't touch my things." He nodded, moving slow, easing his pack down. The fire's warmth bit into his fingers, painful in its suddenness. He held his hands out, watching steam rise from his gloves. The woman turned back to the kettle, stirred it with a wooden spoon, and said nothing more. The silence between them stretched, filled only by the pop of sap in the burning logs. "Didn't expect to find company," he said at last. "I didn't expect to be found," she replied. He smiled faintly, though she wasn't looking. "Reckon most folks are holed up by now. Ain't much out here but wolves and old ghosts. Sometimes those are better company." He glanced around the cave. It was deep, larger than it first appeared, with old crates pushed against one wall and a makeshift bed of furs near the back. She'd been living here a while. "You make this your home." She stirred the pot again. "It keeps the wind out." He waited, sensing that was all she meant to say. Her clothes were worn but sturdy, men's trousers tucked into boots, a wool coat patched at the elbows. She moved with a kind of wary grace, like someone who'd had to survive more winters alone than she'd planned. You got a name? He asked. She didn't look up. Don't see how that matters. Just tryin' to be polite. Then call me widow. That's what I am. He let that settle. Elias Boone, he said. Lumberjack by trade. Then you should have stayed near town. Town don't suit me much. She gave a faint, humorless smile. We have that in common. They fell silent again. The smell from the kettle was rich, stew, maybe rabbit and potato. His stomach turned with hunger, but he didn't ask. After a while, she ladled some into a tin bowl and ate in small, neat bites. She didn't offer him any. He respected that. The wind howled outside, and the fire threw long shadows along the cave walls. Elias settled back against the stone, feeling the aches from his legs. He watched her quietly, noting the way she avoided his eyes, the way her hand hovered near her gun even as she ate. He said, "You here all alone?" She looked at him sharply. "Wouldn't be the first winter I've managed it. Didn't mean no offense. Just seems a hard place to make do. Hard places keep the wrong kind of people away." Elias nodded slowly. "You ain't wrong there." A gust outside sent a moan through the entrance, snow swirling past. The fire dimmed and flared again. He leaned forward, feeding a small branch into the coals. She watched him but didn't stop him. "You're far from any camp," he said. "Ain't many come this deep into the ridge." "That's the idea," she said. He studied her face in the shifting light, strong features, the kind that might once have been soft but had hardened from weather and loss. "You runnin' from someone?" Her eyes flashed. "You ask a lot of questions for a man seekin' warmth." He lifted a hand in apology. "Fair enough." For a while they said nothing more. The cave breathed around them, quiet except for the wind and the fire. Elias pulled off his gloves, rubbing his hands together, and thought about the miles behind him, timber camps, saloon fights, cold mornings hauling logs downriver. He'd left no one waiting for him, and no one cared where he went. Maybe that was what drew him here, the kind of place where names didn't matter. After some time, she spoke again, softer now. "You from the north? Dakota way. Cut my teeth in the Black Hills. You used to live down by the flats. Near the crossing. Miller's." She nodded once, then fell silent again. He noticed her jaw tighten, as if the name of the place itself carried weight. He said, "I've been there. Folks talk, but they don't know much past their fences." "That's true enough." She stared into the fire. "They talked about me once." He waited, sensing something heavy behind her words. When she didn't continue, he didn't press. Outside, the storm grew worse. Snow piled at the cave mouth, muting the wind's roar to a low, steady hum. The air inside grew thick with the smell of wood smoke and stew. Elias leaned his head back, half dozing, until a sound startled him awake, a distant crack like a branch splitting. The woman's hand went to her pistol instantly. "What was that?" he whispered. "Just the wind," she said, but her eyes stayed fixed on the dark beyond the firelight. He listened. The wind rose again, carrying faint echoes that might have been anything. After a while, the tension eased. He stretched, joints popping. "You've been up here long?" he asked. "Long enough to forget what month it is. Can't be easy, living off the land." She shrugged. "I trap when I need to. Trade when I have to." He smiled faintly. "Sounds like freedom." Freedom's just another word for being forgotten. He thought about that a while. The fire cracked between them, and he found himself wondering what had driven her here, what kind of grief could make a woman choose the silence of stone over the company of people. After an hour, she rose and ladled another portion of stew. This time, she poured a bit into a second bowl and slid it across the floor toward him. "You look half-starved," she said. He hesitated. "You sure? You'll be no use to either of us if you freeze or faint." He took it gratefully. The stew was thin but hot, the salt stinging his tongue. "Thank you," he murmured. "Don't thank me. It's easier than burying you come morning." He chuckled softly, and to his surprise, she almost smiled. For a few minutes, they ate in peace. When they were done, he cleaned his bowl with a scrap of bread from his pocket, then sat staring into the flames. "How long since you saw another soul?" he asked quietly. "Too long to count," she said. "And I liked it that way." He nodded, understanding more than he said. He'd been that kind of lonely himself once, the kind that becomes a shield. The hours passed. The storm outside eased to a whisper, but neither of them moved toward sleep. She sat with her knees drawn up, staring at the fire, lost somewhere far away. Elias shifted closer to the warmth, careful to stay on his side of the space. Finally he said, "Widow, you got someone buried out there." Her eyes flicked toward him, sharp and wet all at once. "Everyone's got someone buried somewhere." He nodded. "That we do." She looked away. His name was Tom. He was a freighter. Carried goods between Millers and the pass. One night the gang from Dry Gulch hit the wagons. Sheriff said they were after the gold shipment, but they didn't find it. Tom was shot anyway. They said he drew first. He never carried a gun. Elias kept his eyes on the fire. "I'm sorry. They told me to move on. Said the land we had was claimed now, since he owed back taxes. I buried him myself. After that, I came here." He swallowed, the weight of her story pressing down like the cold outside. "Can't blame you for wantin' to be left alone." She nodded slowly. "Some nights, though, I wonder if he's still out there. I hear things in the dark. Voices sometimes." Elias looked toward the cave mouth, where the snow had drifted high. "Wind can play tricks. Maybe." She drew her coat tighter. "Or maybe ghosts follow those who can't forgive." The fire burned lower, coals glowing red. Elias fed it a few more sticks, careful not to use too much of her wood. He said, "You done well keepin' this place warm, dry. You're tougher than most men I've known." She gave a quiet, bitter laugh. "Toughness don't keep you from remembering." "No," he said softly. "But it helps you keep breathin'." They sat that way a long while, neither speaking. The storm finally broke near dawn, the air still and heavy. A faint light began to creep through the snow-choked entrance, turning the cave pale blue. Elias stood, stretching stiffly. "Looks like it's easing up," he said. "Maybe." She didn't move. He looked toward the drifted mouth, thought about digging a path out, then back at her. "When it clears, I'll be on my way. You won't have to share your cave no more." She gave a faint nod, but something in her expression changed, a flicker of unease, or maybe regret. "You can stay till the sun's up. The storm's not finished with us yet." He sat back down, grateful for the warmth, though his mind wandered. There was something about the place that felt strange, too settled, too lived in for a temporary refuge. The crates against the wall, the old tools, even the faint marks carved into the stone, as if someone had tallied days long past. He looked again at the woman. She sat motionless, eyes distant, as though she were listening to something deeper than the silence. He opened his mouth to speak, but she raised a hand. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Elias listened. For a moment, nothing but the faint hiss of the fire. Then, from beyond the cave mouth, came the muffled thud of hooves moving through snow. Slow, deliberate, too heavy to be deer. Her face went pale. She reached for her gun. Elias felt the weight of his axe beside him, his pulse quickening. "You expectin' company?" She shook her head once, eyes on the entrance. "No, but they might be expectin' me." Outside, the sound of the horses grew clearer. The wind had died completely. The world seemed to hold its breath. Inside the cave, the firelight flickered across two faces, one hardened by years of labor, the other by loss, and in that fragile moment between storm and dawn, they both understood something had found them.